You are looking to cook food, but do you know what the best quality oil is? Well, today what we're gonna do is we are going to explore all of the oils: avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. What is gonna be the best oil to use and which are gonna be the ones that I absolutely tell you to avoid. And maybe we can use some, but maybe those ones that we use are not gonna be intended for cooking. So with all that said, let's jump into Delicious and Nutritious, where we change the world one bite at a time. So let's start off here with the oils that we are never going to use. And I just wanna give a big shout out to Dr. Paz Echeverry, who is a teacher and a professor that was part of my master's program. She's extremely bright. She put this document together. So just wanted to give her a big shout out. So let's learn about a couple things about oils first. So oils consist mostly of triglycerides, which are molecules composed of 3 fatty acids. So there are 2 factors that we have to take into account when going after these oils and cooking with them. There's gonna be PUFAs, which are polyunsaturated acids that are part of the fat molecule. These molecules are going to denature and oxidize much faster than others. And then when they do oxidize, they can turn into hyperoxide, which is gonna be toxic for the body. The other thing that we can check out are gonna be MUFAs, monounsaturated fatty acids. So if you were to look at maybe typical literature, they're gonna tell you to stay away from saturated fatty acids. However, when we're looking truly at health, there may be a different story to that. And these monounsaturated fatty acids do not contain any double bonds, and they're saturated with hydrogen molecules, which means that they are more stable when cooking with. So that is definitely something that is going to be very highly valuable when we are cooking. The other thing we have to look at is smoke point. So you might see things like avocado oil and they're like, oh man, it has such a high smoke point. The smoke point means the point at which the triglyceride, the fatty acid molecule, is going to start decomposing when it is in air. Okay, so if you refine oils such as coconut oil, unrefined, and refined coconut oil, the refined will have a higher smoke point by nature. But you can't only use one of these compounds. You have to take a look at the PUFA and MUFA in combined with the smoke point to see what is going to be the best oil that we can use. And maybe it's not an oil, maybe it's also a compound produced by an animal. We will see. So starting off with oils that are not suitable for cooking with, I'm going to give you guys one that I am absolutely not a fan of. You've probably heard me if you do pay attention to any of my content, and that is going to be canola oil, or what they call rapeseed oil in the United Nations. Okay, so this particular oil is a machine oil. It's from pressed cottonseed. It is absolutely not made for human consumption. However, we seem to see it in a lot of our food. It's very, very cheap. And if you see a food and an oil in places, I always ask, what's going to be the oil that you fry your food in? And that is going to determine if I eat that food or I don't eat the food. And why is that? Because when you do put oil onto your food, you're coating that food, whatever it is, even if it's something organic, in a fatty acid compound. So if you think about it, let's say that you have this all organic salad and then you just dump a bunch of canola oil on it. What happens? You're now eating oil that's going to clog the process that we're trying to do the reverse when eating the salad. Similar thing to as why I recommend eating organic food, because if it's non-organic food, you're having lettuce that has less nutrients in it because the soil has been degraded from non-organic farming standards, which means that they don't rotate the soil. So the soil is abused, it doesn't have enough nutrients in it, and then they're putting pesticides on top. So now you're eating something that was healthy is not healthy anymore because now you're consuming chemicals along with this. So the same thing goes with oil for me. If they're not using the proper oils, there's many organic places out there that just say they use organic canola oil. Not gonna eat there. I've felt the effects of how it feels in my body. It clogs up the liver and gallbladder. I suggest you guys stay away from canola and rapeseed as much as possible. But these oils are also not suitable for cooking with, and they're not the most recommended. But some places, and quite a few of them, actually do use them. They're usually the cheaper oils as well. So we have soybean oil, we have hemp seed oil, we have grapeseed oil, walnut oil, soybean oil, corn oil, vegetable shortening, sunflower oil, canola oil, sesame seed oil, and safflower oil. So if we look at here, we're looking at the saturated fatty acids, we're looking at the monounsaturated fatty acids, the polyunsaturated acid, and the smoke point in combination. Typically on this list, you're gonna see things that are low in the monounsaturated and high in the polyunsaturated, or they have a low smoke point, or they're just not very healthy oils for you. So do I suggest doing some of these? I mean, like, you know, sunflower oil is actually a really common one here. If I were to pick, I mean, I'm not a big fan of most of these oils, but if it were to be me, sunflower or safflower oil and sesame seed oil, when I do cook with that, I tend to add it afterwards. I cook with coconut oil first and then I add the sesame seed afterwards, if that's gonna be what you're gonna go for. But those are gonna be lists that are typically not suitable for cooking with. Okay, so now let's look at the oils that are gonna be suitable for very low temperature cooking. Oh, look, there's avocado oil. It has such a high smoke point. That's the advertising of all the avocado oil. However, its saturation is not very high. Saturated fatty acids is only about 20%. Look at the low heat oils and look at the non-suitable for cooking oils. They have very low saturated fatty acids. When we get into the oils suitable for cooking, we're gonna have much more saturated fatty acids and we're gonna have a high smoke point in general. Okay, so olive oil has only 20% saturation, so it's not gonna be the best. It's gonna denature relatively fast. Even though it has a high smoke point, it can get cooked very high, but it also denatures in a relatively fast fashion. So avocado oil is a low cooking oil, or a salad oil is kind of what I would call these. Macadamia nut oil, olive oil. A lot of people cook with olive oil. It's more of a salad oil. It's not typically an oil that you would want to heat very high because it can denature. And once it denatures, it becomes rancidified, and rancidified oils can actually contribute towards cardiovascular disease. So that's definitely something that you're going to want to stay away from. Peanut oil, rice bran oil, mustard seed oil, and tea seed oil as well. These ones, although if you will look at smoke points, some of them do have relatively high smoke points, but they're not the recommended oils. So if we're looking at the high heat cooking oils, and obviously there's a little bit more than just this chart here that's coming into play with these oils that we didn't go over everything, and it goes over my head, to be truthfully, sometimes as well, but Dr. Paz is an absolute genius. So if we start at the bottom, we're looking at duck fat, the least of the best here, right? We're going from the worst to the best. Look at the saturation percentage here, 37%, 50% monounsaturated fatty acid. Then we're gonna go to lard and bacon, pork fat. Pork fat and bacon fat kind of makes me feel sluggish, so I typically tend to stay away from that. Then if we look at palm oil, if you are gonna use palm oil, I highly suggest that you guys get sustainably raised palm oil. It's not usually the best for the palm oil. 54% saturation, 40% MUFA, and it's got a really high smoke point at 455. Then if we look at tallow, so this is gonna be beef fat. Now we're looking at 55% saturation point, 34%, 0.03% PUFA, right? So that's really, really low. 400 as a smoke point, pretty good. Cocoa butter is on the way up. Now we're gonna get into the top three. So we're looking at butter and ghee. Butter is just normal butter. Ghee is gonna be clarified butter. Remember, when we do take out and refine oils, we're only left with the fatty part of the oil. Butter is gonna have a little bit more of the milk solids in there. Then when we purify that and we get it into ghee, we're removing that so those things can't burn and contribute towards lower points. So if we look, 300 smoke point for butter and 480 degrees if we look for the clarified form of that, with a 63% saturation rate. Then we're looking at palm kernel oil, which is gonna be much higher. It's gonna be the second best thing that we can cook with. 79% saturated fatty acid. What that means is that over a long period of time of cooking, it's gonna stay saturated, it is not gonna denature, and it's gonna be very, very beneficial for us to be able to eat after it has been cooked. Think about olive oil. If you cook for it where it's gonna be at a 14% saturation point, we're only looking at a total of 100 minutes. After cooking with it for 14 minutes, it's completely done. It's not good for us anymore, and it doesn't have the highest smoke point either at 375, right? So it's a much different experience. And then the most best oil. Why do you guys think I'm always recommending it and using it on my channel? It is gonna be coconut oil. Not just unrefined, regular coconut oil, because that's gonna have a smoke point of 350. If it is refined, it goes all the way to 450 with a saturation percentage of 86%. So if we were to look at what we see in the typical narrative of our society, you're gonna wanna have plant oils. However, you can't cook with the plant oils. You need to have different oils that are gonna be cooked with, unless you're using coconut oil. And obviously on this list, I'm gonna recommend everything is gonna be organic. I always cook with refined coconut oil. And then if we are gonna use butter, it's gonna be grass-fed ghee. That's gonna be my recommended one. And then obviously the tallow, the beef fat, the lard, and the bacon pork fat. If you guys do go after that, obviously using organic is gonna be the best mode for you. So look at there. That is gonna be a list of the most recommended to the least recommended. If you're gonna use the oils that are suitable for low heat cooking, I would just honestly consider those salad oils or just adding them to something hot. I would also not do that. If you're gonna cook with it, honestly, try out. Maybe you're like, oh, well, coconut oil, I don't really like the taste of coconut, but refined coconut oil really doesn't have too much of a flavor if it's done properly. So good luck out there, everybody. I want you guys to be healthy and be cooking delicious things and not have to worry about your health. And this is how you do it, by using the appropriate oil when you are cooking. So thanks for tuning in. We're gonna keep changing the world one bite at a time.